My name is Remy Autor, and I'm the Remerant author. Today we're going to do a different kind of little tutorial for Monogatari based on a question that was asked. I realized that a lot of the times I'm helping people how to do simple little things that are pretty easy for me to do, but are completely baffling on where to even start for the user. So I thought I'd give a little different sort of video tutorial here to kind of show my thought process on how I tackle solving these problems. So the question we're going to work on today is somebody in Discord wanted to have these buttons that appear when you first start up, these title screen. Like normally you'd have like a picture here or whatever, and these little buttons that appear on the side, they wanted to have them appear in the middle. And so I didn't know how to do that, but I went to figure it out, and then I told them how I figured it out, but I'm making a video to run through my thought process. So what I normally do is whenever there's something on the screen that I want to modify in some way, CSS code is styling it to put it in that place or make it that color or whatever it is that it's doing. And so I use the inspector view because it's a website. You right click and choose inspect, or you can press Control-Shift-I on your keyboard to pull up the inspector view. If you're using Google Chrome, it'll appear here, or it might appear down at the bottom, depending on what the defaults are. I'm not really sure, but you can move that by clicking these little dots in the corner to choose where you want it to dock. Like you can have it just be an entirely separate window if you really want, and that might be nice. But I like having it on the sidebar, so we're going to keep it there for now. And then I would choose select an element in the page to inspect it, which is Control-Shift-C when you have this window open, or you can just click this little doohickey here. And I would go to one of the buttons, and I would see that these buttons are inside of a div that has a bunch of classes and stuff, and it has this data UI inner menu. That's going to be important. And then you have the buttons themselves, which are individual actions like start, load, settings, help, etc. And you can see they have data string load, data string setting, data string help. That might be useful later too, but for now, we're just going to look at data UI inner menu. And so I would look at these buttons and I would say, okay, well, they're on the right side of the screen. So maybe text dash right says text align right, margin right 0 pixels. That means that the margin over here has 0 pixels on the right and the left and the top and the bottom. Okay, so it's probably nothing to do with the margin. You can click these little check boxes to turn things on and off. Also, they disappear if you have something in your filter. You can click these little margins to turn them on and off and like make them appear or disappear. But it's not that. It's not that. It's nothing to do with animation. Probably nothing to do with the font size, right? So what I eventually find when I'm looking around at right is I find text align right and I find align items flex end. Flex end here does it. So if I change this to flex, see, it gives me these auto things to suggest to me what they are, because I don't actually know how to align items in flex boxes. So you flex start and flex end. So start makes it at the beginning and end makes it at the end. Okay, that's neat. But I'm looking for something a little more. And here are the border radiuses. Radius like a circle. What happens if I mess with these? Let's see what happens. Whoop. You click here, and let's see what happens if I change it to like 10 pixels. It looks like nothing. Oh, that's the scroll bar thumb. I see. That's nothing to do with what I'm looking at. Okay. So you get the idea. I'm just kind of fussing around and like looking for something to see. I'm just searching to like look at how all these colors work and stuff. I see background is RGB 0. What if I increase? Huh. Okay, well I better not mess with that because it didn't change anything. Oh, sudo icy, when I select something, it puts a background color. Oh, neat. You can change the color of how you want things to look when you select them. Okay, I'm learning all sorts of stuff now. I'm having all sorts of fun. But anyway, let's get to the part of the video where I actually solve the problem. I spent a lot of it just looking around at stuff. I find this data UI inner menu is the UI of this class, and I see that there's this, like, the way it is set up is these angle brackets, data UI equals inner menu, and then curly angle braces width equals 100%. Let's see what happens if I change that. Aha. If I make it a certain amount, well, if I make it to 50%, that makes it so it's no longer stretching across the entire width of the page, right? And so that works sort of, but I have a problem, which is that this is the middle of the page and not this being the middle of the page. And maybe I could, like, increment it until I get it right where I want it to be, but that's never going to work out, because if they resize the page, it's going to change, how it looks. So clearly that's a dead end for me. That's not where I want to be. So let's set this back to 100%, because we don't want to mess. We want to set everything back just in case we're touching something we might break. That's how my mind's working here. And then I notice here I've got like dot bottom, comma, dot middle. That's interesting. Let's see, let's try, we're going to make a new rule. Whoa, when I did that, it gave me all these, I see, it gave me all of the classes that are in here. Well, I don't necessarily need all of them. I just need data UI equals inner menu. Okay. And then I'm thinking, well, hold on, I can do like multiple things at once, right? So what if I also add button, right? And in my button here, or does that comma not do it? Okay, and then in my button here, remember when I mentioned those margins from before, the thing on the outside of it? What if I make my margin auto? Whoop, margin auto. Aha! So now I've got a rule here that has moved my stuff to the left and has put it right in the middle, but it's also done this thing where it has changed it so that the vertical spacing doesn't really have anything. So that's not what I want. What did I change when I messed with that? What did I do to the margin? Let's see. Margin used to be 0. Aha. So we used to be inheriting our position from the box, and now the button itself is deciding its own fate. So what have we done? The margin used to be 0 on the top, bottom, everything, and then we gave it a margin of auto. And when we gave it a margin of auto, we gave it an auto to the top, auto to the right, auto to the bottom, auto to the left. Let's not do that. Let's instead go margin left is auto, and also margin right is auto. Okay. And then that gives us back whatever was there before. See, I'm brand new to this program. I don't really know how anything works. I'm just messing around with words. I don't know what all these words mean, but I don't have to, because a lot of the stuff kind of you can detective work and hunt around and try to figure it out. And I find that this is a lot of fun. Text shadow. What's text shadow do? Text shadow none? Why don't I change that to something else, Can I actually... Okay, so Chrome doesn't want me messing with that one right now. It's confused, but and so anyway, now I've got my rule here, and my rule works. Data UI inner menu button, margin left auto, margin right auto. If I just take this, Control C, and go to my main.css file. See, in the Monogatari main window, you go into the style folder and you find main.css. if I go into main.css and I paste that and I save, Control S to save, now I refresh the page. Everything that I had been doing before disappears and is gone. But the thing that I put in here, and don't worry about these, these are something I was doing for something else. Everything that I put here is now here for real. And if I like, you know, let's say I delete it, save, Control, just demonstrating that it is part of it. Yeah, see, now it's back to where it was. Margin left and margin right both being set to auto so that they will automatically fill as much as they need to until they hit the edge of something. Sets it so now my buttons are right in the middle. And so what I then eventually do is I just copy this whole thing here, and I go to the user and I say, here, paste this in your thing. And then they put it in their thing and they're like, oh, thank you, that worked, perfect, you've answered my question. But I realized that I didn't really answer their question, did I? I solved the problem for them, but I didn't teach them how to figure out how to do it themselves. And they probably imagine me to be some sort of wizard because they come to me with a request and then I solve it for them. And it's just magic to them. They have no idea how it happened. They have no idea how it works. They just see this blessed bespoke code, this incantation that I handed to them, and then they put it in and then it does the job. And I don't want that to be the way this works. I want people to kind of know what they're doing and kind of figure it out. And so what happens if I go like, earlier we talked about that border radius thing. Let's say we go button and then we go border radius, right? And then auto completes and shows me what to type. And let's go with 30 pixels. Oh, see, you can change the shape of the button. Learn something new every day. I guess it doesn't really go. Let's see if I just hold that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It gets more and more circular. That's cool. I'll play with that on my own later as soon as I stop recording. Anyway, you get the idea, I hope. And the key thing to remember, though, is anything you do in this area is just going to disappear as soon as you refresh. You know, this is not actually an editor. This is like a test bed where you can play around with it. Anything that you want to make permanent, you're going to go into your main.css file and you're going to put it in there. And once you've put it in there, you have it forever. And you'll find that a lot of your main.css has a bunch of stuff that's just empty, and they're trying to give you some suggestions on what to do, like the quick menu, when you're in the mobile version, you know, here's where you would put those, and you know, that's, if you want to worry about that. Anyway, this video has gone on long enough. But I hope that helps, and I hope that that gets you in the mindset to tinkering and playing around with it. And just, if you make any mistakes and the page just looks like nonsense, you can just Control F5 to refresh. Oh, I'm going to show you one more little trick to show you something else you can do. So you see how when you start up the game, you've got everything changes, and so those buttons are gone, and everything that we were doing with them no longer matters. Let's go with our little selector thing, and I'm going to try to make Mika here's name bigger. So inside of, when I look at the inspector view, I move my mouse around and it shows me all these things. There's a div that is data UI text and data speaking M. M is the name of my character that I defined in my script earlier. And when I go to data UI who, it shows me Mika's name. And data UI data speaking is M. Okay. And say shows me the oh hello there. Okay, cool. Now I understand where we are. So who would change the name, and say would change that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our CSS file, because at this point we already kind of know what we're doing. We're going to go data UI equals who, but let's only do that when data speaking equals M. So now, if we're in a div that is a data speaking M and is also a data speaking who, or data UI, if we're inside of a div that is data speaking M, and inside of that, we are using a div that is data UI who, we make our curly braces here. Let's make the text size, font. Let's make the font size. Let's make the font family. Let's change the font family, yeah. And we'll change it to times. So right now it's a sans serif font. Serifs being those little like accents that are attached to something. Let's make it a serif font and see what happens when we do that. Now Mika's name is this fancy kind of letters, and we can make the font size. Let's make it 50. Let's just make it entirely too big. Yeah, and now our name's entirely too big. And that will make it so that, that'll make it so that Mika's name is just humongous in comparison to other characters. Because we only changed it for her. We didn't change it for Shine here, and we didn't change it for Heather here. We only changed it for Mika. And that might get your imagination going for some different ways you can do things. You can change the font for some characters' names, but not others. Like when you start your script, let me open up my script real quick here. When you start playing around with your script, you are allowed to define a character and have them have a name and have them have a color as you, well, I forgot I have custom things going on here. But you can have a name and a color, but you can't really set a font. You can't really set this or that. And I'm not asking for those features to be added or anything either, because you can do them yourself. And since you can do them yourself, you can play around with it. Anyway, okay, I said the video was going on long enough before, and now it's even longer. So we're gonna cut it there. But yeah, I hope that helped to get your imagination going a little bit and get the ideas flowing on how you can go about solving the problems on your own. And a lot of that went really fast, but you'll find that when you play with the inspector view, it's not very hard. You have a lot of options. Like you can just click on the name and, you know, click, well, let me remove these things from the filter here. We can look at the elements and we can go font size extra large, and it just gets bigger. And you just got to figure out what the rule, you know, for data speaking Shine here and data UI who, I would just go into our main.css file and I would, you know, do that to it. I would make it so it's Shine instead of M, you know, and everything would just, it would just work out. You can make it, apparently, as I have learned from playing with Google Chrome, one of the good reasons why you would want to play in Google Chrome as a test bed is because it kind of shows you what you can type, what your options are. You know, you can make it extra large, apparently, and you type XX hyphen large. That's fun. You can write words instead of numbers. Sure. XX large. Yeah. And you don't really need to know how to do anything. The program can kind of teach you how to do things. And that's how I started and how I got to learn how to do this stuff. I never broke open a book, although I highly recommend breaking open a book. And I'm sure anybody who knows what they're doing might be scoffing and thinking, "Oh no, you can't encourage people to hack things together." But I hack things together. That's how we started. You know, when you're young and you're curious and everything's fun, have fun. And so I hope that lesson has taught you something, and I hope that wasn't a complete waste of 20 minutes. Enjoy, have a great day, and good luck out there.